the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, what's going on, everybody? It is Pushing the Limits. Thank you so much for being here on a beautiful Thursday. At least it's a beautiful Thursday in Las Vegas. Glad to be here with you all. Of course, you could be watching, listening on the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network, of course, my personal YouTube page, which is growing every day. We're now at 107,000 subscribers. We literally just passed 100,000 subscribers just a week ago, so we appreciate your support. And we have a lot to get to. We have some very special guests today coming up here in just a few minutes. We are going to be joined by actor Jeremy London, Party of Five. You know him from the, I guess you could call it the cult classic, because that's really what it is, Mallrats. He'll be joining us here in just a few minutes. And one of the bands that I grew up with, that I've always enjoyed their music very much, they're going to be performing here in Las Vegas this weekend. And the lead singer of that band is Max Collins. He's going to be joining us on the show. Fairly political guy, comfortable talking about politics and a lot of issues all over the world. So Max will be joining us in hour number 2. So I commented a little bit yesterday about George Floyd, Derek Chauvin, and the possibility that there are rumors that Derek Chauvin could be pardoned. But of course, Tim Walz is the governor of Minnesota. He's not going to allow that to happen. However, there are some loopholes here that I do want to talk about in a little bit here, where you never know, the trick's up Donald Trump's sleeve, where a convicted murderer could be set free, even with state charges. And there's a lot of reasons for that. So we are going to get into that in a little bit here. And of course, we are also going to be talking about Donald Trump's visit, hanging out with the Saudis, and he's praising another former Al-Qaeda terrorist. We'll get to that here in a few minutes as well. But joining us right now on the show, you know, he's been on this show before. Always great to chat it up with a guy that I grew up with watching on television, right? Watching on Party 5. And of course, the cult classic Mallrats. Last time he appeared, it was he and his brother. Now, Jeremy joining us right now on the program. Jeremy, it is good to see you, my friend, as always. How are you?
I am fantastic, my friend. So good to be back. What a time we live in, huh?
Yes.
What
Jeremy,
a time to be alive.
That would be an understatement, wouldn't it? I have to ask you this. I don't know. Would you accept a $400 million gift from Qatar? I don't know. Is that acceptable to you?
If I was the president?
Yeah.
No. First of all, you know, it's kind of, you know, it just feels like it's a flying, spying, big giant microphone on with wings. I can't imagine, or, you know, they it's just way too easy to, to rig that stuff. And you know, it's just it looks terrible. The president, first of all, it's going to take them years to retrofit it. And then what, they're just going to give it to him to fly around in with all of the missile capability, like defense capabilities and all of the special stuff that comes with what it takes to make Air Force One.
And Jeremy, I find it interesting that, you know, it was Jared Kushner that received $2.1 billion from the Saudis. Now it appears as though Trump is accepting a $400 million gift, and we're expected to believe he's not going to continue to use it after he leaves office. But yet, MAGA Republicans still want to talk about Burisma and Hunter Biden selling artwork. I just find it so hypocritical and so disgusting. They'll talk about the Hillary Clinton Foundation, and, you know, but yet when it comes to all these bribes and, you know, and I find it also interesting that this comes in the same week with that Syria deal. And meanwhile, a former Al-Qaeda member was talking about building a Trump Tower there. And then a week later, all of a sudden, we have this deal with Syria. I just find it interesting. These MAGA Republicans forget about all this stuff.
Yeah, don't we have a $10 million bounty out on the guy that he's like talking about having, like, making a Trump Tower? And I think that we've gone past the point of idiocracy now. The chickens are going to come home to roost. People do think that this is going to be 4 years of nonsense. I do believe the midterms are going to be a bloodbath for the Republicans. And so a lot of this is going to come to fruition. I don't know what we're going to have to deal with in the meantime. But Trump will never step foot inside that airplane. That will never fly as the airplane for the American president.
I agree. So, Jeremy, I agree with what you just said. My concern, though, is this is a bribe in a sense that he's probably going to use that plane after he leaves office. That's my concern. And my question to everybody is, what are we giving up in return? When I mean we, I mean Donald Trump. What is he giving up in return to accept a $400 million gift?
I can't even fathom, brother. I mean, we already saw he just lifted sanctions off of, was it Syria that he lifted the sanctions on?
Correct.
And, you know, the quid pro quo is so out in the open now. And you have Pam Bondi, who was getting paid 115 grand a month from Qatar before. And then she's the one signing off on this, saying that this is okay, completely nullifying the Constitution and ignoring the Constitution. At what point? The problem is that Trump hasn't gotten in trouble for anything really yet. And so why should he not accept this? Why should he not continue to do everything he's doing? Why should he not continue to line his pockets? He doesn't pay the price for anything. The only lesson that he has learned is that he can do anything and get away with it. And not only that he will have the sycophantic, literally people in Congress, the people that are supposed to be our safeguards, the people that are supposed to be protecting us and our futures and our children. He knows that they're going to lie for him, and they're going to continue to allow him to make a mockery of our democracy.
You know, I remember, Jeremy, the first time I had you on this show, and it was during right after the Democrat National Convention, where Tim Walz made a great speech. Looks like he has a lovely family, and one of his kids is a special needs child. And remember all the people on the right that were mocking this child for crying and loving his dad. And you have a grandbaby who is also a special needs child. And I think of the Trump administration today and where we've come since then. And since that day, where he's still doing the same thing. They're going after vulnerable people, brown people in this country, no due process, women who are literally breastfeeding their children and are being separated from their children. They're literally deporting 4-year-old children who have cancer with no due process, while it's amazing to me. Maybe it's a coincidence, but 10 people that all happen to be white that are brought into this country from South Africa. That's totally okay. But if you're a brown person in this country, we're going to deport you if you have a tattoo saying mom and dad on your chest. But yet the guy Pete Hegseth, who happens to be the second in command with our nuke codes, is the guy who has a tattoo that says 100% white. I just think they continue to go after the most vulnerable people in this country. And it sickens me, Jeremy.
The thing is that what keeps me sane, what keeps me from just completely losing it, is that this idiocracy has a shelf life. I know people don't think it does, and they think, oh, he's going to be in office forever. No, he's not. He's not going to be able to be in office forever. The midterms are going to be this is all going to come back and bite them all in the ass. This is not being forgotten. Jack Smith is in The Hague keeping track of all of this and all of the moving parts, all of the people, the individual people that are a part of this. There's going to be a comeuppance of some kind. I mean, you know, look, I'm not a religious person, but one thing that I do know is that the universe and karma are real, and the way that the universe deals with karma is very real and ever present. And this isn't going to turn out well for them. I'm worried about the damage they're going to do in the meantime.
Right? Yeah, as am I. Isn't it interesting, Jeremy, that you hear Donald Trump types call about the liberal elitists in Hollywood, yet if you go to Mar-a-Lago, those are the people who Donald Trump hangs out with. And by the way, his administration is worth somewhere around $60 billion. That does not include Elon Musk. $60 billion. He only hangs out with tech billionaires and people who look like him, maybe with not as much orange makeup. But if you go to Mar-a-Lago, they stand up and they applaud him any room he walks into, and they all look like him. They're all rich billionaires and white people. So do you find it interesting that so many on the MAGA right attack, I would imagine, still many of your friends that you have in Hollywood that are in your business?
Yeah, it's all projection. At this point, it's like monkey slinging poop and kids saying nanny nanny boo. It's so childish and impetuous, and also indicative of what they're doing. And so at this point, any kind of accusation is just an admission. And so it's kind of just easy to tell what they're up to, because as soon as they start pointing the fingers and calling people names and saying that, accusing people of doing something, they're doing it. And so they don't know how to, the discreet, it's the whole, if you have truth on your side, you pound the truth. You have the law on your side, you pound the law. If you have neither, you pound the table. And that's all these idiots do is, if you throw truth at them, they call you gay or libtard or say that you have Trump derangement syndrome, which is just so just the funniest thing to me. There's a dude down the road who has his entire van plastered in Donald Trump with muscles and all of the dumb stuff, the AI stuff. And that guy will call us deranged, and so at this point, what does it mean? It means nothing if you don't allow it to, and it's getting weaker, you know what I mean, because they're getting more desperate, and it's kind of just all repeating the same nonsense over and over and over. And what's happening now is he's making moves that are actually starting to irk the right a little bit, and they're starting to wake up a little bit, because there's enough people that are mad about this airplane thing that are just like, what, Ben Shapiro and these guys that are just, like, you can't, this is a bad look, and
I just don't understand. I agree with everything you said, Jeremy. And by the way, I was called Trump derangement syndrome guy on the Piers Morgan show just the other day. This is their go-to. They call me a liberal. They say I have Trump derangement syndrome. Let's talk a little bit about Ben Shapiro for a moment. And by the way, I'm embarrassed that we have the same last name, because I have nothing in common with this little weasel.
It's unfortunate. Let me plug my phone in real quick. 1 second. One second.
Sure.
So sorry.
No, you're fine. You're good. So I want to talk a little bit today about Derek Chauvin. And the reason why I want to bring up Derek Chauvin and Ben Shapiro as a part of this is because Derek Chauvin, there's rumblings that he is going to be pardoned. And yes, there are state charges, and the law says it's virtually impossible to pardon somebody by the president on state charges unless the governor of Minnesota signs off on it. Obviously, Tim Walz.
Who's the governor of Minnesota?
Tim Walz, right. But however, there is still litigation in the works. Chauvin is trying to get another trial. He's trying to erase the fact of the plea deal. So his attorneys are in the works and doing certain things. And all I'm saying is this: if he does get a pardon, that could accelerate things, and maybe he does get a new trial. It's not good. And it sends a message, just like his message when he pardoned a bunch of January 6th insurrectionists, some of whom beat police officers. It sends a message that if you're white and you commit horrible crimes, and in this case, murder, as long as you got my back, then you're going to get a free jail pass. And I just think it would be a horrible precedent, even if he doesn't get out of jail. Horrible, the message that's being sent.
Well, what does Trump need to happen more than anything right now? What he wants to happen is he wants to be able to declare martial law, right? And the only way he's going to declare martial law is if he instigates riots. If there's a reason to riot, then he has a reason to do, to make these horrible moves that he wants to make. And so they know, I don't know if it's him, it's, Stephen Miller and all those other evil pricks. They all are not idiots, Steve Bannon and those guys. They know that even just talking about it right now is getting people riled up and getting the fervor going and getting people, and that if there's if that were to happen, that there will be riots in the streets,
I can't believe I'm going to ask you this question, because I don't think I've ever asked anybody this question yet, but I'm getting to the point now where I think it's an important question to ask. Do you think in the next 3.5 years we could be facing some sort of civil war here?
Nah, I really don't. Like I said, if I'll compare it to the whole 100 men versus a gorilla thing. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Maybe the first 2 guys will be brave. Maybe the first couple of people will be brave. But whenever the actual army comes in and starts mowing down people with, drones and stuff and taking care of people, like, with real military force and all of that, it'll be squashed pretty quickly. Not to mention, most of them are the MEAL Team 6 guys. They look, you know what I mean? We're not talking about, grade A soldiers here anyway. The crop that would want to do it would be pretty easy to put down, I think. But I just don't think that it's ever going to go that far. I think it's fun the rhetoric is fun to them. It gets their juices going. I call it hate meth. It's that hate meth. They get off on just the idea and the fantasy of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's why they are alone in their rooms with their fat pouring out of their safety vests and pulling their guns out and pretending to be, soldiers in the mirror. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
When it comes down to it, there's no way one man is going to approach and start, even if there's 100 men behind him, he's not going to, the one guy in the front is not going to attack a guerrilla. It's not, you know what I mean?
Right.
The reality. It's like when those idiots threatened to storm the place with the aliens out there, Area 51.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, when they showed up and they realized, oh no, we're gonna die. Nobody storms.
I tend to agree with you on that. I don't think that's going to happen. But I'm curious. Let's rewind 20, 25 years. Let's rewind to the days of your days of Mallrats and Party of Five. I'm wondering, when you're in your mid-20s and if somebody approached you and said, hey, Jeremy, in 20, 30 years from now, we're going to have this guy in office who's a 34-count felon and an adjudicated rapist that's going to be running the country. I'm curious, what do you think you would have said back then?
Gosh, I had my problems with Bush Jr., and what was going over in Iraq. Sure. And we thought that was kind of going to be the ceiling for stupidity and kind of idiocy that would ever make it in, and it would make and it would be, that nepotism would be the only reason that the idiot made it into office.
Yeah.
I used to believe that we truly were a progressive country, and we were the sort of the top of the mountain, because my American elitism made me believe that and needed me, and I don't know, that want and desire for it to be true was always there. Mm-hmm. Not to mention I was making a lot of money and I was on TV shows, and so my life was quite privileged, so it was easy for me to live in that ethosphere of, oh, everything's wonderful, right? But I haven't lived like that in 20 years. I mostly paint for a living now.
Right. You're a great artist, by the way. I've seen some of your work.
Thank you. I still make movies and I do all that. And I do the things that I love, but I don't, it's not what I rely on for my life. But what's the reason politics became important to me is because I'm a father and a grandfather. Because we have a world we have to leave to our children.
Yeah.
And a legacy, right? The one thing that I can say is that I'm so happy that my sons will look back, and my grandchild will look back in history and know that I was on the right side of history.
Yes, that's
because
important.
this all does have a shelf life.
Yes.
This is all going to end. This is all going to end at some point. Trump is going to die, or he's going to be gone, whatever. It's going to end for them. And when that happens, there's going to be a lot of people that go, I never really believed all that and didn't like the guy, and blah, 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 blah,
That's a good point. We all know that we're going to be on the right side of history, and they are not. I don't know if you've ever worked with or spoken to people like a James Woods or a Mel Gibson, obviously both extreme MAGA Trump supporters. What do you make about them? And do you think they're genuine in their feelings towards Trump and what's happening in this country?
Oh, yeah. Well, hate is a universal language. It has nothing to do with, and, especially whenever you're talking about people that are privileged and elitist already and feel like they sort of deserve to be treated better than other people. Like, there are some celebrities that buy into the whole thing that they are better than everybody else. I'm not one of them. I've never bought into that. I've never been comfortable with it. That's why I live in, Mississippi and Florida. I don't live anywhere near Los Angeles. I got the hell out of there. I've never been comfortable with any of that. But there are some people that are just horrible people. It doesn't matter where you come from. Just because they're actors doesn't mean they're any different than the group of plumbers down the road that half of them are wonderful guys and half of them are racist pricks. The group of librarians, one of them is going to be One of them's going to have some racist beliefs. You know what I mean? Like it's just
you're right.
Statistically,
you're right.
The problem is that celebrities have a platform to where they can actually where people can see it, you know, and that's always, there's going to be a record of all of that. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when the chickens do come home to roost, there's going to be a record of all of these people that he licked his boots, you know?
Yeah. No, you're right. It doesn't matter what profession you're in, whether you're an actor, a celebrity, a radio host. There's plenty of racist bigots that are radio hosts. We had somebody by the name of Rush Limbaugh, who, in my opinion, cancer might have killed him, but he was a cancer to society. And, you know, Fox Noise.
What a horrible person.
Oh, terrible, terrible, Jeremy. I agree with you. The day after he died, I went on a conservative radio show and I bashed him. And then the bosses said, no, you can't do that. I said, I just did. And then soon after I quit, now I started to do the show here. So
good for you, man. That's why we love you. That's why we love you. Because you do that. Because you are the militant voice. You're not, man, I'll tell you what, if I have to look at Chuck Schumer one more time. Talk about we've sent him a very strong letters, and we're gonna make him answer those really it's 8 questions.
That's really good. If they ever do a documentary, The Life of Chuck Schumer, they better hire you.
I don't think I could be paid to be that bored.
Jeremy London, the new impersonator. Oh, it was pretty good. I'm impressed by that.
I can't fathom just what, like, if the Dems are ever going to battle against the entirety of the ugliness. It unfortunately it takes being somewhat a little bit being willing to be a little bit ugly back. This playing nice thing is never going to. It's not going to keep working. It hasn't worked up till now. It's not going to keep working. There's a way to do it without calling people gay and belittling them and stuff like that. All you have to do is just show them their works. There's a way to do it by saying, do you hear what you're saying? Do you understand, like, that the things that are coming out of your mouth are all your, it's ultimate stupidity. What did Trump said something today about that he doesn't like stealth because because it's ugly.
Right. He said a lot of crazy things just every day, is particularly in the last 24 hours, praising an former Al-Qaeda terrorist. And it seems like an everyday thing. Jeremy, before I let you go, as I mentioned, you are a great artist. Is there a way that people can buy your work? Like, where do they go? I don't even know if you sell it.
Oh, man, that's so nice. I do. I sell all my Twitter, Sir Jeremy London. Follow me on Twitter. That's the best way. Or Blue Sky at Sir Jeremy London. I really, I kind of just post them on Twitter, and I've been fortunate enough to kind of keep it going there. I need to get a website. I know I do. I'm sorry, folks. But if you just go to my Twitter feed, you can scroll down. Or the best place is probably Blue Sky, actually, because I kind of only post my paintings there, really, and so they're more consolidated. So it's better if you go to Blue Sky, Sir Jeremy London, you can see my paintings, and then hit me up on Twitter or Blue Sky. And I take commissions. I tell people just to make me an offer based on what they can afford, along with what it means to them. I'm not one of those people that slaps big prices on art and all. Well,
I'm waiting for I'm waiting for the bald Brian self-portrait, so I'll definitely buy that one.
Nice.
Jeremy, you're the best, man. I love you, brother. I appreciate it.
Love you too, my friend.
We'll have you on again soon.
Anytime.
Thank you so much, man. Keep hearing voices like yours. You're important, and keep going, my friend. Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, brother. Keep up the work.
That. Thank you, Jeremy. That's Jeremy London, everybody. I grew up with his movies, and of course, he was on Party of Five. He's just a good dude. And I really, by the way, that impersonation of Chuck Schumer, I have to say, that was really good. I didn't know Jeremy could do impersonations. That was really, really good. I didn't put him on the spot. Maybe I'll ask him to do his Donald Trump impersonation next time. But Jeremy London, everybody. Pretty awesome having him on the show. And Jeremy's a fan of this show. He watches it a lot. So that's how we met. So I appreciate Jeremy taking the time to join us. All right, as I mentioned, the lead singer, I can't talk today, the lead singer of Eve 6, Max Collins, a very opinionated person, is going to be joining us in hour number 2. But I want the show to take a little bit of a turn right now. So obviously, you know, what took place when it comes to the George Floyd murder, we all saw the video. I remember the first time I saw the video, I was taken aback, and it was emotional for me to watch, and it was horrible, as I would imagine for most of you as well. I don't care what type of person George Floyd was. What I do care about is that he was murdered and what happened in those moments and the moments leading before. And the argument from the far right is that he died of a drug overdose. Now, why am I talking about George Floyd today? Well, because in the last couple days, there have been rumblings that he could get a pardon. I understand he has state charges, and I understand the president can't pardon him on state charges. We will get to that. But there are multiple sources that are saying that Governor Tim Walz and the mayor of Hennepin County and the sheriff, DeWanna Witt, have all been briefed on preparations for possible civil unrest if Donald Trump does pardon Derek Chauvin for his federal conviction. Now, that doesn't mean state charges would be dropped, but that doesn't mean there also won't be civil unrest. And Donald Trump has been saying, I don't know anything about it, but that doesn't mean anything because I don't care what Donald Trump says. So here's the problem with this that we need to all understand. There are still pending motions and orders that are in place. Chauvin and his attorneys have already asked for his plea deal to be vacated and discovery from the medical materials of George Floyd. They are asking for a new trial. Don't know if he'll get one. But if he is pardoned on federal charges, that could make the situation very different, and you never know what could happen. That's all I'm saying. So the argument from the far right is he died of a drug overdose. Newsflash, he did not. There were several autopsies, and in the 2 autopsies, one of them was presented in a court in the case. They labeled his death a homicide. Unless somebody is force-fed drugs, which we know in this case didn't happen, then the drugs had no bearing on his death. They labeled it a homicide. So there's no argument there. There's nothing to say. The official autopsy ruled his death a homicide caused by heart failure due to police restraint. And while drugs were found in his system, and that is true, they were not the main cause of his death. And even an independent autopsy said he died from asphyxiation, a lack of oxygen caused by pressure on the neck and back. And at trial, doctors said Floyd died from low oxygen, not a drug overdose or a heart attack. Police restraint being the key factor. Derek Chauvin is a convicted murderer. However, idiots like Tim Pool had a discussion or a debate with Marianne Williams. Now listen, Marianne Williams doesn't seem like a bad lady, seems like a nice lady. She's not completely and entirely educated on this case, but Tim Pool tried to get her in a gotcha moment. And I want to play this entire clip because I think it's important. Tim Pool is trying to make the case that Derek Chauvin didn't have a fair trial because everybody saw the video, which, by the way, is insane. And I'll get to why it's the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life. But he tries to get Marianne Williams in some sort of gotcha moment based on the fact that he believes that George Floyd didn't get that Derek Chauvin didn't get a fair trial. Have a listen to this, and then we'll discuss.
If a judge were to say a fair trial would not be possible, so we're going to do it here anyway, would you find that acceptable in terms of how our system is supposed to work?
No, but I've never heard a judge say that.
So
a judge, I've never heard a judge say, and by the way, I'm having a little difficulty here because I think now it's a little too loud, and I don't know if I'm talking weird because I'm...
No.
I've never heard a judge say, I admit you couldn't get a fair trial here, but we're going ahead with the trial anyway. And I don't agree with every judge, but that's just something...
And what do you think would be like? Let's say that hypothetically happened, and there was someone who was being charged with a crime, and the judge said they petitioned for a change of venue, and the judge says there's nowhere you can go that will free you from the bias of this place, so we're doing it here anyway.
I don't think that would be right, and somebody would be petitioning somebody. I mean, even in those cases, there is such a thing as judicial prejudice. Somebody would be would be arguing that there was judicial prejudice, and the case would not stop there.
What if the case did stop there and the man
If
just
the
went
case
to prison?
did stop there, I'd be the first to say this is wrong.
So will you stand up in defense of Derek Chauvin?
Wow.
Derek Chauvin
I understand. I know
for a
who
change
Derek
of venue,
Chauvin. Are you?
And the judge said there is no venue you can go to where you'll be free of any bias, so we do it here anyway. So is the issue?
Wasn't there some legitimacy to that, given the fact that everybody saw the video? Everybody saw the video, so how could there be a lack of prejudice anywhere?
Right.
So are you saying?
So the question is about the Constitution and what is fair in the court of law, and not what we want to have happened because of our feelings.
I don't think
if the issue is a judge says there will be no fair trial for you, my argument is then there's no trial at all, and the man should be released because that's a limitation of our democratic system.
That's what your argument would be?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you and I totally disagree on that one.
If a court cannot grant a fair trial under the Constitution, then the court cannot imprison a person.
Yeah, well, you and I don't agree on that one.
So you think that people should be, the state should be allowed to imprison people even without due process?
I think that that was an overriding circumstance of the fact that the judge was correct. There were very few people in the United States who had not seen the video. That's all the judge was saying. The judge was saying, we're going to do our best. We're going to do our best in the way we interrogate people to make sure that they will be as non-prejudiced as possible. But the judge was admitting there's no location where it's going to be any different.
All right, so let me explain to you how stupid Tim Pool is and how dumb that argument is. And it's so easy to dissect it. And all due respect to Marianne Williams, I'm sorry. She didn't do a good job there. Here's why this argument is so dumb. First of all, everybody saw the video of George Floyd dying and getting murdered. Everybody saw it. So the argument, that's like saying, and God forbid, I'm not saying I would ever commit a crime. I'm just using this for sake of an argument in general. If somebody went up to an innocent person on the street and there was body camera footage of it, and let's just say it was a celebrity, a famous person, and shot them with a gun, and there's video of it, and everybody saw it. It was cold blood murder. It was like night and day. Everybody saw the video. Tim Pool's argument is because everybody saw the video, he can never get a fair trial. So he's not even going to be put on trial because it's unfair and against his rights of due process. Obviously, that's the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life. It's so stupid, and Tim Pool is such an idiot. By the way, I say it again, if George Floyd was white and Derek Chauvin was black, you wouldn't even hear Tim Pool talking about this case because they're all right-wing, racist, white supremacist a-holes. That's why. It is the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life. Oh, well, and by the way, the judge said it'd be impossible to find a place in this country and find a jury pool where not one person heard about this case already. That's all the judge was trying to say. And he's right. It's very simple. If there's a video of cold blood murder, for example, and everyone sees it, that person, would you make that same argument for them? It's the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life. Let me be very clear. George Floyd was murdered. Derek Chauvin is a convicted murderer. But the difference for the far right is Derek Chauvin happens to be white, probably a Trump supporter, and George Floyd was black. That's the difference here. Even though everybody saw it on video, everybody saw what happened. But yet idiots on the far right, white supremacist sympathizing fools, just like the Jack Posobiec's of the world and others, and the Laura Ingrams of the world, they will defend Derek Chauvin. And Ben Shapiro is a human turd. You see, Ben Shapiro wears that yarmulke on his head. If anybody does something wrong to Israelis or the Jewish people, he'll be the first one to defend them. Okay, no problem. But when it comes to a black person being murdered, Ben Shapiro's the first one to defend the white person who's a murderer, because Ben Shapiro is a racist piece of human scum, a 4-foot-tall weasel who won't debate people that are intelligent. He'll just go to college universities just like, others like Charlie Kirk and get paid thousands and thousands of dollars to debate a bunch of 18 and 19-year-old liberals. It's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting. So, what I did is I went on the Piers Morgan show. I was on the Piers Morgan show this week, but I did the Piers Morgan show last month with a guy by the name of Michael Knowles, who is a complete imbecile who defends Kanye West for use of Heil Hitler and of course takes the side of Ben Shapiro, who's his boss, by the way, his lapdog. And I had this argument with Michael Knowles, who's a liar. This was on the Piers Morgan show last month, where Michael Knowles is making the claim that somehow George Floyd died from drugs, that it was a drug overdose, and that he was a bad guy. Listen to this debate I had with Michael Knowles, and it'll make you sick, because Michael Knowles, just like Tim Pool, just like Ben Shapiro, just like Jack Posobiec, who all believe that Derek Chauvin should be pardoned, are racist, white supremacist sympathizers. Listen to this.
Play a clip of Ben Shapiro, your namesake, talking about Derek Chauvin, the cop who's doing life for murdering George Floyd. Let's take a look at what Ben said.
If we are issuing pardons, however, there is one person that President Trump should pardon from federal charges forthwith. It would be incredibly controversial, but I think that it's absolutely necessary. That person is Derek Chauvin. President Trump should, in fact, pardon Derek Chauvin. He should. He should pardon him his federal charges.
What's your response to that, Brian?
Absolutely and utterly absurd. First of all, we know that Derek Chauvin is a murderer. He's a convicted murderer. And Michael likes to talk about autopsies. Let's talk about autopsies. There were 2 autopsies in that case. Both found that he didn't die of natural causes or drugs. He died because of Derek Chauvin's knee on his neck for 8 minutes when he was on his stomach and his hands were behind his back in handcuffs. Ben Shapiro is a moron. Derek Chauvin is a murderer. And he, in my opinion, Chauvin should, the rest of his life, he should be behind bars. For Ben Shapiro, who is one of the biggest right head talking points for you guys, to say that Derek Chauvin deserves a pardon is absolutely and utterly absurd. And I wonder if George Floyd was white and Derek Chauvin was black and the exact same thing happened, I wonder if Ben Shapiro would be saying the same thing about Derek Chauvin. Obviously, the answer is no. Of course the answer is no. And then Michael Knowles went to his right-wing talking points about what a bad guy George Floyd was, like that has any bearing on the case at all. So, folks, I know there's a lot of you out there that are saying, Brian, there's no chance that Derek Chauvin's going to be pardoned because of state charges. I'm trying to tell you guys something here, okay? Donald Trump is the president of the United States. I understand the governor, Tim Walz, is going to do everything in his power to not let this happen. But at a minimum, if Derek Chauvin is pardoned on the federal charges, there's going to be some civil unrest. We don't want to see that happen. And keep in mind that there are still pending motions in his case. Derek Chauvin is trying to get a new trial. If, in fact, he is pardoned by the president of the United States and you have a bunch of judges that might be right-wing Trump judges, there is the possibility that he could get another trial. We don't want to see that happen. So I'm trying to be as careful as I can and factual as I can, but just in the understanding that Donald Trump, again, does not respect the rule of law. He never has his entire life. Donald Trump does not give people due process unless they're white supremacist murderers. Then I guess he does. They're, again, heroes and hostages and patriots, the people who beat police officers on January 6th. Because if you support Donald Trump, apparently you can beat up cops and be charged and convicted of seditious conspiracy and get 2 decades behind bars, but you will be pardoned by the president of the United States. However, if you're also a white person, happens to be a police officer at the time by the name of Derek Chauvin, who murders a black man who is on his stomach with his hands behind his back in handcuffs, you murder him, we'll consider giving you a pardon as well. So we cannot take this story lightly. We do not want civil unrest. We do not want a convicted murderer out on the streets. I want to open up the phone lines at 702-221-7283. And again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, that number is 702-221-7283. And I want to get your thoughts on this. Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm out of line? Yes, legally, state charges cannot be dropped unless he's pardoned by the governor of Minnesota and Tim Walz. But do you understand my premise to my point? If he's pardoned on federal charges, there's still pending motions and orders in place. The guy's trying to get another trial. This is going to harm the country. It's going to send a horrible message. At a minimum, that's what it does. So the number to call is 702-221-7283. And again, that number, 702-221-7283. I also remind all of you that we are in the YouTube Super Chat. So if anybody in there wants their questions or comments to be heard, you can do that in the YouTube Super Chat with a minimum of a $5 donation. And if you make a donation of $25 or more, You're going to be entered into the contest this month to be able to do a segment with me. You could also go on my website, which is pushingthelimits.live. Again, that website is pushingthelimits.live. Listen, if you support what we do here at PTL, then we sell merchandise up there, hats, beanies, you name it. We sell it. And you could also make monthly donations with the donate button there, and we appreciate your support. Okay, that number again is 702-221-7283. Who should we be going to first here to lead us off on a Thursday? Let's go to Adam. Adam is first up on PTL. Hi, Adam.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, what's on your mind today?
You just talked about the whole Chauvin thing and Ben Shapiro, and my question for Shapiro is, what if George Floyd is Jewish and Chauvin is a Palestinian?
That is such a good question that you ask, and it's such a poignant one, and it's so important, because I could guarantee you, my friend, I can guarantee you that Ben Shapiro would be speaking. He would want that guy he'd want Chauvin to get the electric chair.
He would be coming out and screaming at the judge for not giving him the chair. There would be an outrage. It's just more pearl clutching, and
you're right.
That
Let me be. And by the way, I agree with that 150%. It's just like what I say. What would happen if Derek Chauvin was black and George Floyd was white to these right-wing idiots? Right? It's the same premise. All I can tell you is this, and I think you probably know this about me. My last name is Shapiro too, but I try to treat everything fairly. Right? It doesn't matter what the color of their skin is. It shouldn't matter what the religion is, and it shouldn't matter what George Floyd did in his past. That's irrelevant. All that matters is what took place moments before that knee was on the neck, and in the 9 minutes that took place. And it was clear as day. Everybody saw it. It was murder. Derek Chauvin, in my opinion, should get the electric chair. Give him the death penalty. I'd be totally okay with that.
No, I agree. And going back to yesterday with those idiots that were trolling about, saying Rittenhouse was a hero.
Yeah.
How did everybody know about these people's past beforehand? They claim that Rittenhouse did a good thing by taking out these people with bad past. How the hell did he know he was going to unalive a child rapist?
Well, here's what I would say to that in a nutshell. First of all, the right has rewarded Kyle Rittenhouse because he gets paid money to speak at certain events. Charlie Kirk has paid him money to speak on college campuses. That's number one. Number two, I can tell you that after in a large group of people, it's already a hostile situation, they hear that there's an active shooter. There are some people that try to disarm the active shooter. That's what I think the other two people that were shot, that's what I believe was in their head at the time. And number three, he was dreaming about shooting people a week before. He was caught on video saying he wanted to shoot people that were shoplifting. Now, you tell me, let's go back to when we were 17 years old. Were we dreaming of murdering people because they might be shoplifting a bottle of alcohol? Now, you might say, well, that's wrong. They deserve to get arrested. But when I was 17, I wasn't dreaming of killing people, and I certainly wasn't dreaming of shooting people because they were shoplifting. That was the mindset of Kyle Rittenhouse. He wasn't there because he wanted to defend anybody's property. He didn't know anybody that owned any property there. He didn't even live there. He was there because he wanted to be a vigilante. He was there because he's stupid. He was there because he thought he could be Mr. Tough Guy. And he's the one who put himself in that situation. So that's what right-wingers do. They put Kyle Rittenhouse on a pedestal. They put the McCloskeys. Sir, do you remember the McCloskeys? They were the couple, the white couple that were pointing weapons at Black Lives Matter protesters. None of those protesters were on their private property. They were charged, and then the Republican governor dropped the charges. They were speaking at the Republican National Convention. They make these people out to be heroes that are criminals. That's what they do. That's what the Republican Party does. Hulk Hogan, who is a known racist, the guy who runs the UFC, Dana White, who's a wife beater, Kid Rock, who's a homophobe. These are some of the celebrities and the spokespeople that they have on the right. It's despicable.
It's beyond no, Ben. It's beyond despicable. It's treasonous. Some of the things that have been being said and thrown out there in the media is like I said, it's treasonous. You have a president who literally is taking a bribe from the same people that orchestrated 9/11. But these are going to be the same people who pearl clutch and say, never forget.
Yeah.
And then, oh, we forgot now. It's okay, because our president gets something free. And every time, before I let you go, the thing that I hate the most, when they bring up the Statue of Liberty, last time I checked, Grover Cleveland didn't say, hey, when I'm done with my presidency, the Statue of Liberty is going to go to my private foundation.
Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right, my friend. Great phone call, and you bring up some very good points. Tell that to anybody who defends that little weasel Ben Shapiro. Yeah, that little weasel Ben Shapiro who wears that yarmulke on his head because he thinks he's a better Jewish person than everybody else. Let me tell you something. Ben Shapiro is a embarrassment towards people of the Jewish faith. He is an embarrassing person who spews right-wing talking points. And your thoughts don't care about your feelings. Gets paid boatloads of money to debate a bunch of 18-year-old liberals, and he walks into a room thinking he's the smartest person in the room. He might be slick with the way he talks, but he's not as smart as people think he is. He's bigoted in nature. And you're damn right. If somebody commits an atrocity or does something horrible to a Jewish person or people of Israel, okay, he defends it. Fine. But when it comes to a black person being the victim of a crime, because Ben Shapiro is a racist, he will defend the white supremacist, or he will defend a murderer. Keep in mind, a convicted murderer like Derek Chauvin. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Mario. Mario's next on PTL. Hi, Mario.
How you doing, Brian?
Hey, good. What's on your mind?
I'm from Canada. You know, my mother tongue is French, so excuse my English. My English is
That's
not
okay.
perfect.
No, you're fine.
All right. I want to thank you for your show, my friend.
Oh, thank you.
It's unbelievable the way you talk and the way you approach things. You know, man, I really like your show.
Thank you.
But, you know, I got two hats. I got the American hat and I got a Canadian hat because I was born in Canada, but I live in the state of Maine. I know you're from New England, right?
I'm from back east. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay. So I lived in the state of Maine for a while. And I moved back to Canada. And when I came back to the States after a while, I couldn't recognize my America. My America is gone, man.
Well, I agree.
America is
I can
gone.
understand why you would say that. I don't recognize this country that I grew up in, that I'm from either. I don't recognize a country where we are deporting 4-year-old American citizens that have cancer. I don't recognize a country where people are not getting due process. I don't recognize a country where somebody comes in here legally seeking asylum and he's deported to one of the highest maximum security prisons in the world because he has 2 tattoos that say mom and dad. I don't recognize this country anymore where we can receive $400 million gifts from terrorists and then say, oh, well, it's a gift to the government. You know, that's what it is. It's a gift to the government. Let me tell you exactly what's going to happen with this gift. Donald Trump may not fly in that plane as president of the United States, but you're damn well right. He is not going to hand it over when he leaves office to somebody else. He is going to keep it for himself. That's exactly what this is. And then MAGA Republicans will forget about it. That's what they're going to do. They're going to forget about it.
And what's wrong with them, Brian? It's so obvious that Trump is not a president. He's a dummy.
I think it's worse than that.
I don't understand why people vote for that guy.
Well, I think a lot of dummies did vote for him, and it's a good question that you asked. But I also believe that there's a lot of ill-informed people, a lot of brainwashed people, a lot of selfish people, and a lot of bad people. And without getting too much into the weeds, those are the categories for me, my friend. And stay safe out there in Maine. That's a beautiful place to live. Great seafood out there. And I believe that's where our own Midas Touches Ron Filipkowski is from. He lives in Maine as well. Ron's a great guy. Thank you, Linda, for your YouTube chat donation. Says Jeremy London said there's a shelf life on this Trump mania, but is there with Don Jr., Eric, or even Barron waiting in the wings? Well, I think, Linda, that's a very good question that you bring up. I can't even imagine Don Jr. running for president of the United States, or Eric. I like to call them Uday and Kusei, his 2 stupid sons, his stupid criminal sons. Let's go to Shelly. Shelly's next up on PTL. What's up, Shelly?
Hey, Brian. How are you, darling?
I am doing good, Shelly. What's going on today?
Hey, let's try, well, I hate to, but to try to follow Tim Pool's logic a little bit, okay?
Okay.
We know he's a very logical guy. So if a crime is filmed on a phone, which we know everybody has 24/7, 7 days a week, right?
Yep.
Then that means nobody ever will have a trial or go to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what he's saying, right?
Well, he's defying court orders. He's defying judges. He's defying the Supreme Court. This is a guy who's never respected the rule of law his entire life. So I don't know why people are so surprised that he's not respecting the rule of law now. What's somewhat surprising to me is the MAGA Republicans that continue to curl themselves into a pretzel that talk about the Constitution when Donald Trump seems to not be able to uphold it on a daily basis. That's what's mesmerizing to me.
I get it, darling.
Yeah. Well, Shelley, it's good to hear from you. I appreciate your call, my dear. You have a great
Bye,
rest of
honey.
your day. You take care, Shelley. Goodbye. Thank you for calling. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Bobby. Bobby is next up on PTL. Hello, Bobby.
Hey, Brian. Bobby from Minnesota.
Oh, well, there you go. So you know a thing or two about this Derek Chauvin, George Floyd situation pretty well, being out there in Minnesota, don't you?
Yeah, I think hell's going to break loose if Trump Lee does that. It's going to be Minneapolis burning down all over again.
So let me ask you a question, Bobby, and obviously we don't want that to happen, but even if he's pardoned just on the federal charges, which is the only thing that Trump can do, obviously he can't do anything about the state charges. Do you agree? You agree with me then that there will be civil unrest regardless?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Do you think Trump wants that?
Oh, I'm sure he does.
Yeah. See, Bobby, that's why this is so important. A lot of people yesterday when I talked about this and I did some social media stuff, they're like, Brian, he's still going to remain behind bars. Even if that's the case, the civil unrest we will see not just in Minnesota, but throughout the country, I think will be unprecedented because this is, you know why, Bobby? This is such an open door, shut door case. We all saw the video. We all saw what happened here, right? We all saw him begging for his life. We all saw him saying, I can't breathe. He wasn't going anywhere. He wasn't, trying to evade police. He was on his stomach with his hands behind his back, and George Floyd was pleading for him, please. He said, please, officer, I can't breathe. And Derek Chauvin kept that knee on his neck, and those other officers were complicit at a minimum. This is such an easy case. It was all filmed. But yet there are still MAGA Republicans out there, most of them white, that think Derek Chauvin should be pardoned, Bobby?
Well, he'll still have 22 years in state prison, so.
Okay, but Bobby, hear me out on this one. You're probably right, Bobby. You're probably right. But just hear me out on this. I don't trust Donald Trump. He doesn't respect our rule of law. And if
nobody trusts him.
Well, that's my point, right? You never know what could happen. Maybe they send him to another prison outside the state of Minnesota. Listen, all I'm saying is you never know what's up Donald Trump's sleeve. And if he pardons Derek Chauvin, you never know what could happen. You never know.
They're already planning on bringing him back here if he's pardoned.
Tell me about that.
In the federal prison.
Yeah, so talk to me about that because I heard about that. How the governor and the mayor out there are planning that. Tell us about that.
I think he's going to be either going to Oak Park Heights or Stillwater State Prison.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good. That's important to know. All I'm saying is I don't trust Donald Trump. I don't trust Pam Bondi. You never know what's up their sleeve. And I agree with you. We both agree that there is absolutely going to be some level of civil unrest, even if he's pardoned on the federal charges, my friend. Stay safe out there in Minnesota, and I appreciate your call. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Kava. Kava is next up on PTL. Hi, Kava. Hi, Kava. Are you there? I think we lost.
I'm here.
Go right ahead.
No, I'm here.
Go right ahead.
I just want to say thank you for speaking on the George Floyd situation with Derek Chauvin.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this, and I personally, as a person that called myself, I saw this, and my heart dropped to my stomach, and I don't understand why anybody would want this, why anybody thinks that this is smart, that this is, cute, because this isn't a game. This is a guy who unalived an innocent person of color who was doing nothing wrong.
He murdered him.
Was proven
it's a clear murder. It's a clear murder.
Right. And these people think that this is a game. This is not a game. MAGA, you guys say that, well, he was doing this or that. What about you guys who stormed the Capitol on January 6th? You guys are no better.
Well, here's what makes this case cut and dry. And the argument that even Michael Knowles made to me, which isn't an argument, he's just an idiot. He tried to make this case on Piers Morgan last month when I appeared, which was Derek Chauvin died of a drug overdose. White supremacists seem to have that opinion. And let me repeat this once again to your MAGA turds out there that are watching and listening, but are cowards and they're afraid to call into the show because you're going to get destroyed. He did not die of a drug overdose. There were multiple autopsies, and the autopsy The official autopsy that was used in a courtroom ruled his death a homicide. The second autopsy also ruled his death a homicide. What that means is he wasn't force-fed drugs. Unless somebody force-fed drugs into his system, then it could be a homicide. No, he took those drugs himself, which means they concluded that he died of a homicide, meaning not from the drugs. He died because of what Derek Chauvin did to him with the knee on the neck for 9 minutes. It's so hard for these idiots to be able to comprehend or understand because they can't, quite frankly. They can't.
Yeah, and it's a real shame that we as a country have gotten to a point where we are victim blaming people of color and we're victim blaming women. It's gone to this point. It should never have gotten to this point to begin with. I don't understand why we as a country cannot get to a logical standpoint of we should not be victim blaming, period. It's not as difficult.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right on that. I agree with you, Kava, and I hope he's not pardoned. There will be civil unrest, regardless if he's still behind bars or not on state charges. It still is a horrible, horrible message that Donald Trump would be sending to the country. Let's go to Eric. Eric is next up on PTL. Hey, Eric, what's going on?
How you doing, Brian?
Hey.
Just called to say love the show.
Thank you.
I don't know if you guys already spoke about this earlier. I just tuned in, but about the family of El Chapo being brought to the United States.
I am unaware of that. But if Donald Trump did that, it wouldn't surprise me one bit. Do you remember?
Yeah, it's
days
like
after
17 family members.
Doesn't remind. Let me remind you of something, and I'm going to tell you why some of these despicable Republicans don't surprise me. Do you remember hours after 9/11, it was proven that members of Osama bin Laden's family were flown out of the United States of America, and George W. Bush was behind that. That has already been confirmed. We know that. That is not fiction. That is not some sort of conspiracy theory. George W. Bush and the Bush administration, they knew exactly who was responsible for 9/11, yet they protected Osama bin Laden's family. If that's the case with El Chapo's family, then it doesn't surprise me that Donald Trump would be doing the exact same thing.
Yep. This will be brought in under some type of agreement.
Doesn't surprise me one bit. I mean, this is who these people are, and it's sick, my friend. I appreciate your phone call. Thank you very much. It's good to hear from you. 702-221-7283, the number to call. Let's go to Pat. Pat is next up on PTL. Hello, Pat.
Hey, Brian. How are you today?
Hey, good. What's on your mind today?
You know what? I would not be surprised if
Pat?
Trying to do. He's trying to draw black people out to protest. He's gotten rid of DEI. He's getting rid of black statues, doesn't want black history, none of that. He's just trying to draw black people out in the streets to protest. And then it's going to be on and cracking. That's what he's trying to do.
I agree. I agree with you 150%. And unfortunately,
you notice a lot of people, black people are not protesting because we know if we go out there, we are going to be the ones hit first.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right about that. It's the American. I was just sorry, my dear. I was just going to say the American consumer are the ones that are struggling in this country. The people that are hanging out at Mar-a-Lago, his white tech billionaires, are the ones that are doing well, that are saving money.
Right.
The American consumers and the overwhelming majority of the people that voted for Donald Trump, which are usually, in my opinion anyway, uneducated, ill-informed white people, are actually the ones that are suffering because of his policies, but they're too stupid to know it.
Right, but that's the reason why he would let Derek Chauvin out, to draw black people out, to get mad enough to come out there and protest. That's the number one reason I would see why he would do that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, my dear. I appreciate you, and I appreciate your phone call. Thank you very much, my dear. 702-221-7283. Michelle on the YouTube Super Chat says, hi, Brian. First of all, I love your channel. Thank you. About the illegal Fed funding cuts, where's the money, and when are we stop paying the federal taxes? Please and thank you for all you do. Well, thank you, Michelle, for being a big supporter of the show. There are also some idiots, as they always are in the chat, as I like to call them, MAGA trolls or MAGTards, that are too scared to call into the show and have a discussion or a debate with me. But they use their little orange Trump fingers to type away because they're, professionals at that. But yet, we have the number, they know the number, but they refuse to call in because they're cowards. I do find that very interesting, but that's okay. We know who you are. 7283 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation. Kim, we appreciate your support. Kim says T has ordered the federal department to purchase erect banners of his face on federal buildings. Estimated cost is around $184 million. They do it in North Korea and China to show respect for their supreme leaders. So why shouldn't we? Well, that doesn't surprise me because Donald Trump admires evil, murderous dictators like the Vladimir Putins of the world and the love letters that he wrote to Kim Jong-un. So it doesn't surprise me that Donald Trump would be treated. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump is a supreme rapist. Donald Trump is a supreme criminal. Donald Trump is a supreme piece of human garbage. That's who Donald Trump is. And instead of bending the knee to Donald Trump, he's the one that should be bending the knee because he belongs behind bars. 702-221-7283. Let's go to the UK. Let's go to Paul. Paul is calling from the UK. What's up, Paul?
Hi there, Ben. Thanks for taking the call. I hope I'm not off topic, but something that's been on my mind is your Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Your legal system has always been interesting to me and often absurd. I followed the OJ trial closely. But in this particular case with the poor bugger that they deported illegally to the jail, why didn't the Supreme Court simply say, they're all arguing about the word facilitate. Why didn't the Supreme Court simply say the Trump regime have got to get this guy back by such and such a date into the country to have due process? Why didn't they just say it specifically? Why do you have to create a whole enigma around a word that the Trump so-called lawyers can argue about for the next 6 months?
You're asking me why the conservative members of the Supreme Court aren't saying that? Is that your question?
Well, it's kind of rhetorical because I guess I know where you're going here, but it's obscene if that's the reason.
I'll tell you why. Because just like certain members of the Supreme Court, like the Brett Kavanaughs of the world, is that they know they are there because of Donald Trump. And they are just as much sicko cultist as a Pam Bondi is, right? Or a Kash Patel is.
Yeah.
They try to do their best to curl themselves into a pretzel, just like when they gave him immunity. They know it's unconstitutional and the president shouldn't have total immunity, but they do it anyway because they're sicko cultists of Donald Trump. That's why. That's the best answer I could give you.
Well, I'm afraid I knew that was the answer you were going to give me, and it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. Can't the people? Can't they actually at least be lobbied to give that answer? Can't somebody be specific about what actions you want the Trump regime to take? Because we all know they could bring that guy back within 48 hours. We all know that.
And the ruling of the Supreme Court, and correct me if I'm wrong here, was that Donald Trump has been asked to facilitate the return. He has done nothing to facilitate the return. Nothing.
No, but you can hear the argument of his so-called lawyers. I say, well, when somebody decides to move the guy, we'll facilitate that movement.
Right, and
but
he hasn't done that.
We won't precipitate the movement, though. We won't start it.
It's very
simple. We'll just help it along.
Donald Trump basically said, F them. He could have told the president of El Salvador, we need these people back, and it would have been done overnight, within 24 hours. Not only did he not do that, but I can guarantee you he told them, nope, we're keeping them there. These are sick people. These are bad people. But if you're 100% white from South Africa, we'll allow you into this country as a refugee seeking asylum. No problem. But if you have any black in you, nope, goodbye. This is the Trump administration. Take it or leave it. This is who they are.
Well, as you say, it's exactly what it is. There's no nuance about it. There's no nuance about this gold aeroplane.
Nope.
We all know it's a bribe. We know it's a bribe.
Of course it is.
And that's it.
Of course it is. But I get these I get these arguments with these MAGAs. Oh, this isn't a bribe. What do you mean? It's a gift to the government. Oh, really? What do you think is going to happen to it when Donald Trump doesn't fly in it for several years, which, by the way, I don't think he will. Not because he doesn't want to, but because there's too many security issues and they have to take apart the plane. That would take years, in my opinion, to do that. That's number one. And number two, when he leaves office, if he leaves office, and I know that's a big if, but if he does, you think he's just going to give up that plane and donate it somewhere? No, of course not. He's going to fly in it himself.
Of course not.
Yeah.
He's going to be buried in that plane.
You're probably right about that. You're probably right about that. And if he could save money, if he could save money on his taxes, he would bury a family member in the plane, if not on the first hole of one of his golf courses. You're right.
By what you said, I heard somebody, I don't know, an expert on security said they can actually hide a surveillance. He used these words. They can hide a surveillance device on the head of a butterfly.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
so they would literally have to dismantle that plane down to the rivets.
Oh, you're right about that. You're right about that, my friend. Stay safe out there in the UK. Always appreciate your calls, my friend.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Michelle. Michelle is next on PTL. Hey, what's up, Michelle?
Hi, Brian. I just did the super chat thing. I'm not a MAGA or a troll. I don't know what you thought, but I couldn't fit all my words in my thing, my chat or whatever. And I'm serious about what I said, because if the felon and the circus are going to keep shutting down all these, every department, this is what makes me mad. What makes me mad is when anybody says that he's doing it for efficiency.
Yeah.
And also when they say that you know why he's doing it, because he's getting everybody off his ass for his, pardon my French, but all his problems he has.
Right.
Because all his
he creates
junk
chaos.
is junk.
He creates chaos.
Yeah, but he shut down the CFPB and the NIH and all that stuff. So I meant what I said about where's that money? They're not sending money out. So all those people died, right? All them kids are dying.
Right.
So where is that money? Because they're sending their circus to the Senate floor now to try to get more money. And that RFK guy, how is this all legal? Help me. I know that you know Ron because I saw you on show with Ron Filipkowski, and
Ron's a great
I'm a
guy.
Midas person.
Ron's a great guy.
I'm not a MAGA.
No. Listen. I'm happy to hear that, and I believe you. You have to understand, and I think you probably already know this. Donald Trump has not respected the rule of law his entire life.
That's what I don't understand. Why are people so stupid and disgusting? And if they're going to keep taking that money, why? What did I say in there? What did I say on the thing? Oh, when are we going to stop paying federal taxes?
Yeah.
Why would our companies make us pay federal taxes if they're not going to help anybody? They've stolen more money than I just don't understand this. And it just keeps getting worse and worse. So how is it that there's actual people?
Well,
I thought I was crazy.
Listen, no, you're not. These are the same people, my dear. The same people who buy the Donald Trump Bibles. The same people who
and
complain. Right. The same people who complain. The same people who complain about gas prices and inflation and eggs are the same people that spend $600 to buy a bunch of piece of crap Trump gold sneakers that are made for like $4 in China. The Bibles that are made for $3.
My sister have been best friends since birth. We were 13 months apart, and I said one day to her about something about Trump and the Project 25, and ever since then we don't talk.
I'm sorry to hear that, but I also could say I have.
But she's a correctional officer, and I know that Biden did her raises, and she blames everything. I don't even care if she blames it on. She blames it, but she's sick. She's like, I don't care what Donald Trump wants. That's what I want.
And because of that, you guys don't talk anymore. Well, first of all, I'm sorry to hear that. I can hear the pain in your voice, and it pains me to hear that. But here's what I would tell you. I understand you probably have a long relationship with this woman. She was probably a dear friend of yours, and I'm sure that you guys have had a lot of fun times together. But let me tell you,
my sister, she's my real sister for 53 years.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I have to be honest with you. You sound like a very nice lady and a compassionate lady. Anybody who is that sycophant of Donald Trump is very mentally ill. And guess what? If they're not seeking help or they're not willing to get help, then that is a very dangerous person for you to be around. And I know that might be very...
The people that are MAGAs or even just like Donald Trump, they just don't... They're literally trying to justify why it's okay for him to have a $400 million plane.
Yeah. They're sick.
I mean,
but you have to make a decision.
disgusting.
Okay, so hold on. There comes a point in your life, and it sounds like you've already come to this point in your life, where you have to make a decision. Are you going to continue to have a relationship with somebody, whether they're your sister or brother or a family member?
No, she won't even talk to me.
Yeah, well, guess what? Then she doesn't deserve to talk to you. Because it sounds to
Right.
me like
Yeah,
she is
I
a very.
feel the way I feel. I don't feel crazy anymore. I feel sick that there's actual people that are this. I don't know what they are. They're like.
Well, there are a
hypnotized
lot
or
of different things.
something.
First of all, you can be mentally ill but not be a bad person. It sounds to me like your friend is not only mentally ill, but not a very compassionate person. Let's just call it for what it is. Not a very good
doesn't
person.
have
She
to
might
be
have
there,
some
no.
good qualities, but she's not a compassionate person. And let me explain to you why really quickly. And I think you probably know, but let me explain to you why. If somebody is okay with human beings not getting due process, then they're a bad person. If somebody is okay, if somebody's okay with pardoning a bunch of people who beat police officers on January 6th and calling them patriots, then you are a bad person.
That didn't happen.
If somebody
you won't
is,
believe the things that even my daughter, me and my daughter don't talk either. They think that people literally filmed this in other places and then played it on TV and lied about it.
listen, I'll be even more clear.
I've never seen such sick people in my life. I've never. Ever.
Neither have I, but I'm going to take it one step further. If somebody is okay with voting for a president who brags about going into teenage locker rooms and watching them change naked,
don't even say that.
if you're okay with that behavior, then you're despicable, and I want nothing to do with you. Well, listen, in closing, I want to
Donald Trump before he was ever a president.
No,
because he's not. It's not about politics with him.
You knew more than I did, and I appreciate that, my dear.
No.
Listen, I'm very sorry to hear about your friend not even talking anymore, but it sounds like she's an imbecile, and you don't. She doesn't deserve somebody like you in her life. That's how I feel. Let her be a Trump sicko fan, and then when she loses all her money, and then when she loses her job, and then when she loses her 401k, and then her medical benefits, maybe she'll wake up and smell the coffee. But unfortunately, by then it'll be too late. 702-221-7283. Let's go to Bruce. Bruce is next up on PTL. Hi, Bruce.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
There's something that hasn't been touched on about this jet. This reeks of a classic psychological operation. They fitted it out with so much gold that they knew Trump would want it personally and use it as a family car.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like a classic psychological operation. He's been studied. They knew he has a lot of vulnerabilities, but they knew what he just could not resist. Plus the fact that it spent 6 months in China.
Well, let's go back to 2014 real quickly, when Barack Obama made a joke about Donald Trump at the dinner, and Donald Trump first got into office, and this is obvious. He didn't think he was going to win. He did it because he thought.
Yeah, he's tried before then.
Yeah,
that wasn't the first time.
He thought it would be good for his brand. He didn't get into office because he wanted to make America great again, maybe white again, but he never thought he would win. And then when you see the look on his face in the hours and days after he won, and he didn't think he would win. And then he found out that, wow, I have all this power. I can do what I want when I want and do things in favors to help family members, whether it be Jared Kushner getting $2.1 billion from the Saudis, whether it be his daughter Ivanka, who he says, if she wasn't my daughter, I would date her, which is disgusting in itself. She made over $600 million in Chinese trademarks. All these people around him becoming rich, and if they didn't want to become rich and they didn't want to be unethical, they ended up going to jail unless they broke the law like a Michael Cohen did, and like a Steve Bannon did, and like a Navarro did, George Stephanopoulos. Listen, it's very simple to me. Now he has the Supreme Court on his side, who has ruled him immunity, and he's above the law, and he can do pretty much whatever he wants to do, and there's really not much people can do about it. So this is who...
Yeah, there's no longer separation of powers.
Right, exactly. And the great thing about this country is we've always had checks and balances. We don't have that with Donald Trump anymore, Bruce. I really do appreciate your call. Let's go to Las Vegas. Let's go to Mark, who's calling out of Las Vegas. What's going on, Mark?
Hey, Brian. A couple of things for you. One is, the people on the right screaming about a fair trial for Derek Chauvin, they should remember that it's a jury of 12 people. All he needed was one of 12 to not go along, and it could have been a hung jury or a not guilty verdict. So if the table is tilted in any way, shape, or form, it's actually tilted, of course, toward the defendant. So all these complaints about not getting a fair trial, well, that's a bunch of BS.
Of course it is.
The other thing is that when it comes to government and efficiency, I don't necessarily want an efficient government. I want a government who's looking out for my interests and my health and my safety and preventing companies from moving along, polluting our environment, and doing other things. So in the name of government efficiency, the right wing really just doesn't want regulation. That's what that is.
No, they don't want.
They don't mind.
They don't want.
They don't mind if our water is polluted. They don't.
Well,
care.
apparently, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. doesn't either. Did you see him in that little creek there with feces? And this is the guy who's the head of Health and Human Services. And he's trying to tell us what's good to do with our bodies and what we eat and consume and our behavior. And meanwhile, this moron is in that creek that has all this bacteria. It just shows you, Mark. It just shows you the stupidity of those that are in Donald Trump's administration and the people that he hires. My friend,
you bet.
I really appreciate your call, Mark. Thank you. It's good to hear from you. Let's go to Dave. Dave is next up on PTL. We got a few more minutes of phone calls, then we got to go to break. What's up, Dave?
I just have a quick comment. Read this today. I don't know if you've addressed this, but House Republicans unveil the cost-saving centerpiece of Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill, quote unquote, at least $880 billion in cuts, largely to Medicaid, to help cover the cost of $4.5 trillion in tax breaks to the rich.
Awful, just despicable, but not surprising.
Wait till these Republicans start seeing that their old parents, because I'm in that stage right now, that I have a father who's 107 and a half years old and depends on Medicaid to cover his costs in memory care.
Yeah.
Wait till these Republicans start getting the bill.
Well, do you remember when he said he wasn't going to touch Medicaid? Do you remember when they all said that, all these MAGA Republicans? And then
yeah, of course. He's a effing liar.
Of course he is. Yep. They lie about everything. They're not going to do this. They're not going to do that.
Everything.
Project 2025 has been implemented since day one, and it's going to be continuing to be implemented until they get everything they want in there. That's what's going to happen.
I read today, get out of the country early, followed the German example, and recognize what's going on and get out early.
Yeah. You know what? That makes sense to me. Hey, listen, I'm with you, my friend. We got to continue to call it out,
All
Dave.
right.
I appreciate.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Dave. I appreciate you. Thank you for listening. Also, Renuga on the YouTube super chat, not defending Trump and the methods that he's using, but there are some interesting developments in the Middle East going on. Please ask some expert on the topic, not to take it from me. Well, here's what I can tell you. Benjamin Netanyahu is a lunatic, and he's a Trump sicko fan. While I support the state of Israel, I don't support Benjamin Netanyahu, quite frankly. Number two, as far as developments go, whatever happened to Donald Trump taking over Gaza, turning it into a resort? Listen, the Israel-Palestinian conflict is going to continue no matter who's president, but I would argue Donald Trump has not made it better. He's made it worse. Let's see. Let's go to the MAGA Destroyer. It's always fun to catch up with Darlene. Darlene, what's going on, girl? How's it going?
Hey, Brian. I want to say a message to the girl that called a while ago that was upset.
Yeah.
Girl, I'm here for you. If you could call me any time, because I went through the same thing. I lost a few family members, and I lost my best friend from high school, and they're all at fault. It's not me, it's them.
Damn right.
So if they don't want to talk to me, screw them. That's how you got to get that attitude out there. Yeah. If you don't like me, screw you, you know?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, Brian.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And there's people in my life that I don't talk to anymore either because they're sicko fans. So I'm with you. I understand.
And I'll tell you what, I want to thank my deceased parents in heaven that they didn't raise me to be a racist like a lot of these racist pigs around here. I'm sick of racist.
That's where it starts. A lot of these people that are racist, it just doesn't flip a switch overnight. It's usually the way they were raised and the people they hang around. And so many of these MAGA supporters, sadly, were raised the wrong way. My dear, it's good to hear from you, Darlene, and I am glad you are not one of those people either, and that's why we love you. Thank you, Darlene. 702-221-7283. Thank you, Chris, for your support. Chris says, Brian, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 11,780 brain cells that Trump is missing. Let's give him a residency in that swanky El Salvador facility. Keep up the phenomenal job, Brian. Well, thank you, Chris. That's very nice of you to say. It'd be a great day for America and the country if Donald Trump was sent to an El Salvador prison and never able to come back. You could put Eric and Don Jr. in the same cell with him, and maybe we can play some music 24/7. You could play that stupid Lee Greenwood song 24/7, but give them 3 Trump Bibles. But here's the thing. Here's what I would do. I would give them 3 Trump Bibles every month, and that's what they would have to use as toilet paper before they go to sleep. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Let's go to Mark from Pennsylvania. Hey, Mark, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hello, Brian. That caller who called about the El Chapo family?
Yeah.
Yes, they are getting a free pass into the country, and they were in drug cartels. I want to mention 2 things, and the last thing I want to mention is a question I'm going to give you. But the first thing I want to mention is, did you happen to notice or listen to Cory Booker yesterday on MSNBC?
I did not.
He stated, basically, I am going to write a strong worded letter to the Speaker of the House on some of these situations, especially with the plane. I sat there and laughed. You still don't get it. A strongly worded letter. He's going to take that letter and wipe his ass with it. That's what he's going to do.
Letters aren't going to do anything. What I would prefer Booker do is go on Fox News and yell to high heaven about how this is. That would mean more to me than some stupid letter.
My question to you is this. First of all, people don't think that there's definitely going to be a congressional election or a presidential election, because I don't believe it's going to happen. But here's my question to you. Do I believe, and do you think this could be a possibility that Trump is using this pardon on federal charges for Chauvin to see how he can rile up the minorities, to see if they can take the streets and riot, and then at a later time use another sampling of pardons and get them riled up, and then have Congress call martial law because of the uprising or civil disobedience?
Wouldn't put it past Donald Trump, Mark. I actually think that's a really good question that you asked, and I've talked about that. The reasoning why, how it would benefit Donald Trump is you'd have civil unrest. We all know that Donald Trump wants chaos. We all know that this could, and I say could, help facilitate maybe a new trial for Derek Chauvin. I don't know if that's the case, but what I can tell you is yes, Mark. Yes, to answer your question, I don't think I would put it past Donald Trump to do it for those reasons. Absolutely. We saw what took place on January 6th, where Donald Trump was celebrating Capitol police officers being beaten with their own batons, and Donald Trump was sitting there and he enjoyed it, even learning that one of his own had been shot and another person had a medical episode on the steps and was trampled. Donald Trump did nothing for 4 hours. He sat his fat ass in the Oval Office eating KFC and enjoying what was taking place. So, yes, I do think that's a possibility. No doubt about that. Let's go to Kathy. Kathy next on PTL. What's up, Kathy?
Hey, Brian, let's go ahead and get into this. Okay. Chauvin has had 18 misconduct complaints against him. He's a wonderful guy that the MAGAs really love. He had 18 complaints of misconduct, one of them being in September 4th, 2017, and this was not allowed in trial by the judge. He hit a 14-year-old black boy in the head with a flashlight so hard the boy required stitches, and then held him down with his knee for nearly 17 minutes, ignoring the boy's complaints that he could not breathe. Wow. The city of Minneapolis has paid out over $10 million in lawsuits because he used that same method to restrain black motorists and other people. So this guy is a serial racist, and he's a serial officer, and he should not see the light of day. Because I guarantee you, if he gets a pardon, he's going to be one of Trump's guys to go to in ICE. I really believe that.
Let me tell you, Derek Chauvin would be the Stephen Miller of the Trump in the Trump administration. I really, truly believe that, my dear. Derek Chauvin is the kind of guy that Donald Trump would hire for a job. It's just so sick and it's just so disgusting. I want to thank Joseph on the website, pushingthelimits.live, with a generous donation. Joseph says, "Hi, Brian. Grateful for your show and education. I feel so bad for the last woman caller. My father hasn't talked to me in over 5 years because of his love for the orange dope, and his wife called. He passed away 3 weeks ago. Very sad." Well, I'm sorry for your loss, Joe, and I'm really sorry to hear that. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody, Joe, and thoughts and prayers with your family. It sounds like your father was a brainwashed individual, and he decided to choose Donald Trump over his own son. That's really sick, Joe, and I'm really sorry to hear that. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to be joined by the lead singer of a band that I grew up with. He's a pretty opinionated guy, and over the course of many years, he's been very, very popular on social media, not for political reasons, though. The band is called Eve 6, a multi-platinum album put out in 1998, and the man who is the leader of that band, his name is, lead singer of that band, his name is Max Collins. He's actually going to be here in Las Vegas over the weekend. Max is going to be joining us next. For those of you that are still on hold, sit tight. We'll get to some more calls a little bit later on in the program. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in 90 seconds, and Max from Eve 6 will be joining us next. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York-style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Who would have thought there'd be so many kids playing ice hockey in the desert? Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, founded by Gina Yusufzai 8 years ago, made it possible for families who can't afford the equipment and food. Donate today at www.hockeyforkids.org and help us continue making a difference. Join us in supporting Jake Helps Hockey Foundation and the Las Vegas Ice Warriors, where every kid gets a shot at the starting line. Just a reminder, our website is www.hockeyforkids.org.
Have you ever dreamed of having your own radio show or a podcast, but just didn't think it was possible? Well, dreams can come true. Radio U. Radio U is a 5-day course that'll teach you how to acquire your dream show. We'll teach you how to host, how to write commercial, how to interview, how to market, how to write a contract, and most importantly, how to monetize your dream radio show. You'll learn from some of the best in the business with over 75 years in broadcast experience. You'll learn from people like me. And the best part? Every single student will be live on the radio as part of the class. Plus, one student from each class will get their very own radio show. You'll be live on the air right here in Las Vegas. Radio U. The 5-day course is being offered at $699. For more information, give Radio U a call. 702-763-5024. That's 702-763-5024. Or check them out at RadioYOU101.com.
Clear Sky Resorts invites you to escape the ordinary with a vacation that's extraordinary. Experience one-of-a-kind glamping vacations full of fun and adventure at their unique Sky Dome Resort near the Grand Canyon. To ensure every Clear Sky Resorts vacation is fun and memorable, they offer lots of family-friendly activities, the majority of them free for guests. And because every great adventure deserves great food, their resident food truck promises to keep guests deliciously fueled for all the fun. To book your reservation today, please call 1-888-704-4445 or visit clearskyresorts.com.
Complete Family Care in Henderson is open. No waiting, just walk in, see the doctor right away, have your blood and x-rays done on site, and so call them today at 702-747-7770. Fall allergy season is here. Get a 3-month allergy shot for $120. 3 months of allergy relief for just $120. Complete Family Care accepts all major insurances and Medicare, so visit us today at cfchenderson.com. That's cfchenderson.com, or call them at 702-747-7770. That's 747-7770.
The ultimate Vegas extravaganza with Terry Fader. One man, 100 voices, 1,000 laughs. Come experience an immersive journey of comedy, music, and parody songs as Terry Fader, the world's top ventriloquist, takes center stage at the Strat Hotel Casino and Tower. Be prepared to be mesmerized by Fader's incredible talent as he brings to life a cast of characters who showcase the iconic songs that define the soundtrack of our lives. Terry Fader, one man, 100 voices, 1,000 laughs.
Clear Sky Resorts invites you to escape the ordinary with a vacation that's extraordinary. Experience one-of-a-kind glamping vacations full of fun and adventure at their unique Sky Dome Resort near the Grand Canyon. To ensure every Clear Sky Resorts vacation is fun and memorable, they offer lots of family-friendly activities, the majority of them free for guests. And because every great adventure deserves great food, their resident food truck promises to keep guests deliciously fueled for all the fun. To book your reservation today, please call 1-888-704-4445 or visit clearskyresorts.com. Dream vacation for a week. Over 1,500 sold. A $3,700 value good for a 7-night, 8-day vacation stay at the resort of your choice. DreamVacationWeek.com. Enjoy the ease of booking your vacation with these prepaid discounted gift cards. You are only responsible for the taxes and occupancy fees. For a studio, only $309 a week. One bedroom, $379. And for 2 or more bedrooms, only $409 a week. Destinations include Las Vegas, Orlando, Cape Cod, Hilton Head, Scottsdale, Arizona, Lake Tahoe, Park City, Utah, Breckenridge, and hundreds of international destinations in Asia, Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Daily resort fees are required. Book now at DreamVacationWeek.com.
Step into the prettiest beauty studio, where our main goal is to create a comfortable and professional environment for our clients. Walk out feeling even more beautiful, fresh, and pampered. Nails, pedicures, lashes, waxing, permanent makeup. Book your appointments today. 702-812-3295. Located at 1959 North Decatur and Lake Mead. Walk-ins are welcome.
Dream vacation for a week. Over 1,500 sold. A $3,700 value good for a 7-night, 8-day vacation stay at the resort of your choice. DreamVacationWeek.com. Enjoy the ease of booking your vacation with these prepaid discounted gift cards. You are only responsible for the taxes and occupancy fees. For a studio, only $309 a week. One bedroom, $379. And for 2 or more bedrooms, only $409 a week. Destinations include Las Vegas, Orlando, Cape Cod, Hilton Head, Scottsdale, Arizona, Lake Tahoe, Park City, Utah, Breckenridge, and hundreds of international destinations in Asia, Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean. Daily resort fees are required. Book now at DreamVacationWeek.com.
All right, welcome back. It is Pushing the Limits on a Thursday. Thank you so much for joining us. We got some special guests that are going to be joining the show tomorrow, by the way. You want to stay tuned for that, including a staunch Republican who actually is former law enforcement, who's going to be coming on the show tomorrow speaking about why Donald Trump is such a danger to the country and the world. That's certainly going to be very interesting. Nicole Mitchell is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow as well. We're waiting on Max from Eve 6 to join us. By the way, if those of you that are unaware, I did want to bring this to your attention. The Supreme Court heard arguments on birthright citizenship and nationwide injunctions today. Interesting because after more than 2 hours of argument, for lack of a better term, still uncertain how a majority of the court might deal with those two competing interests. I can't believe we're even having this discussion. But you know what, folks? I still can't believe that Roe versus Wade was overturned. I still can't believe that in my lifetime that was overturned. Justice Neil Gorsuch at one point about the patchwork problems he talked about, allowing enforcement in some parts of the country but not others. Justice Brett Kavanaugh pressed the attorney for the Trump administration about how it's going to work if the president's order is allowed to take in effect. Obviously, both of those people are conservatives. Certainly, I would say that even Brett Kavanaugh is even further to the right than Neil Gorsuch. I think I would make that argument. And Kavanaugh suggested a class action lawsuit instead. I'm not sure how that would work. But does that mean that Barron Trump, of all people, would be deported? Just throwing that out there, ladies and gentlemen. What type of country are we living in today? I will take some phone calls again at 702-221-7283, and the number to call again if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-217-7283. Let's go to Mary. Mary, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Well, when you talk about the civil unrest potential, I think Trump really wants to cause civil unrest because that will enable him to call martial law.
Yeah.
And that's going to enable him to really pursue and using the Alien Enemies Act, and it will allow him to pull off any midterm election, as well as the next the presidential election.
Oh, absolutely.
In power. So I mean, like your previous caller said, I think that's very huge. That's a big thing. And the other thing is, as long as we Americans are busy tearing at each other, then we are not going to be able to be involved internationally.
I think you're right. I think you're right about that. But that's also my criticism. Why, if Republicans and Democrats can't work together to get things done, then how are we going to be together as a country moving forward? I've been saying that for years, and I think it's worse now more than ever, my dear. Thank you, Mary, for the phone call. We appreciate it. All right. So anybody that knows me knows I'm a big alternative rock fan, right? I mean, I go to a lot of concerts, and I live in the 90s. I actually still do. One of the biggest songs of the 90s, I think, arguably, would be the song Inside Out in a band called Eve 6. They had platinum success with the album they put out in 1998, and then the following album was awesome as well. I've been listening to their music since I was in high school. I guess that makes me old too. I don't know. But the guy joining us right now on the show, an opinionated guy, and I love his music. They're coming to Las Vegas this weekend on Saturday to Sunset Station. Great place to watch the show, and I believe that concert is outside, which is even better. Max Collins, the lead singer of Eve 6, joining us right now on the show. Max, it's good to see you, my friend. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you too. Thank you for having me. And sorry I'm a little late here. I had the times all mixed up. That's one of the things about getting old, and is you mix things up.
That's totally okay. I can relate to that, Max, and I appreciate you being here. I would imagine you probably have a lot of crazy Las Vegas stories from back in the day, because this won't be the first time you guys played here, right?
Yeah, we played Las Vegas a bunch. I'm trying to think if any story will make itself distinct in my mind, but I'm not sure that it will. I think there's they tend to be blurry, those Vegas experiences, don't they?
Understandable. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about social media, because I talk about social media all the time, sometimes the dangers of it, but it's a private platform and you can do whatever you want. You seem to have had a lot of fun with it over the years. Would it be fair to say that there were times in your life where you trolled other celebrities?
Certainly would be fair to say. It was kind of during the pandemic, when we had canceled tours and no work and sitting around at home, and I started to kind of pop off on there a little bit, and indeed had a really good time there for a little while. I'm actually taking a bit of a kind of probably long overdue break from being on there, for my own kind of sanity, I guess. But who's to say? I'll probably be making an ass out of myself on there before we know it.
Well, I'll be the first one to say I thought some of your tweets were hilarious, and I got a lot of laugh out of it. And that's really what it should be about, just having a good time. So
I
Max,
agree.
yeah, absolutely. It's about having a good time. I'm curious, because I ask a lot of musicians this question. You have a lot of hit songs, right? Here's to the Nights is one of my favorites. But I wanted to ask you about the song Inside Out, because anybody that's anywhere near our age knows this song. When you're writing that song, and even when you're recording it in the studio, are you saying to yourself, this is going to be big? Or do you have absolutely no idea and you just are nervous about it and you don't know how it's going to end up?
It's really funny. My daughter just had a show choir performance at the high school that John, or Sweet Pea as I call him, went to, and we were signed when we were still in high school. So like the band started when we were sophomores, and yeah, and a lot of the songs were written when we were still in high school, including that one. And as we were like, it was a trip just being on that campus after 60 years or however long it's been. But like as we were leaving, we passed this corner right before one of the entrances of the school, and like I remembered that corner was where I told Sweet Pea before classes started. I guess it would have been in like our junior year or something like that.
Yeah.
And I said to him, just all guilelessness and naivete, I was like, I think I wrote a song that could maybe be on the radio. and it was that song. And it wasn't like, that song is one of those that went through, like once we started working with Don Gilmore, who produced that record, you know, we chopped a lot out of it. There were like extra verses that ended up getting cut. There was like that outro section wasn't there yet. So it was like it was the song in its rougher stages. But I think what was the kind of tell for me maybe was like when I would be playing it in my parents' dining room where I did a lot of my like writing, because I liked the acoustics in there, because hardwood floors, and it said there was like this built-in reverb, and so I liked to rock in there with my acoustic guitar. And my neighbor started coming over and being like, hey, play that Blender one again. I want to, and and my mom started referring to it as the Heart in a Blender song. And so yeah, it sort of was immediately, even in its rough infancy, kind of like reactive, and probably because it's such a, you know, kind of adolescent, hard on sleeve,
right,
the things that make it cringe are maybe also the things that make it lovable. And I don't know, this is me doing analysis that's worth absolutely nothing. So
I disagree. It's interesting to me because you wrote the song. It's one of the biggest songs of the 90s. Tie Me to the Bedpost is probably my favorite few words in that song. But
yeah.
The lyrics are incredible. Obviously, it's a phenomenal song. Does it ever get old, you playing it in front of your fans?
This is one that I feel like when I give an honest answer, no one's going to believe it. But the truth is, no. It's like, maybe it's because we're a one-hit band, or you know, people always correct me and say, no, what about whatever. But I mean, the Blender song is, you know, that was our main jam, right? And so maybe if we had like 14 number one songs or something like that, it wouldn't be as novel to me to play a song that like everyone in the audience, whether they're a fan of the band or just, you know, had their rubber arm twisted to come to the rock show, everyone knows it. And that's a lot of fun, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like playing a song, even if it's an old song, you're playing it right now, you know?
Yeah.
You're like, you're doing the thing right now
Yeah.
with your dudes who
Right.
you love.
Yeah.
And it's loud guitars and stuff. It's great.
Max, what was the point though in your career where you said to yourself, "Oh my God, we actually made it. We did it." Like, is there a moment that you can go back into time and say, "Man, this is really working. We're a big band now. We're going to get paid a lot of money to do what we love to do"?
I don't know if I would have articulated it just that way to myself at this moment, but the one moment I do remember is we had heard that there was a radio station up in like Ventura County who was going to be playing the song. This was very early on when it was just like specialty shows were sort of starting to like test the song out and stuff and play it like late at night or whatever. And this was you know, Ventura County's fairly close to us. So we were like, okay, let's make the drive. Let's drive up and hear our song on the radio. And as we're getting closer, we hear the DJ start to introduce the song. You know, this is a new band. You know, some guys from Los Angeles. You know, they're called Eve 6. But it was like, as he was saying that, we weren't getting a clear reception yet. It was like sort of cutting between the alternative rock station and like mariachi station. So it's like kind of going back and forth at the crackling. And then right as like the first chord of the song came in, it became crystal clear. And it was me and John, Sweet Pea, and a couple friends. And yeah, that was just one of those moments where it's like, this is a thing that's impossible. This is like, my band's not, it doesn't get played on the, pardon, I don't know what kind of broadcast this is, but my band doesn't get played on the radio. That's not a thing that's in the cards, and my band's getting played on the radio. So yeah,
Right.
it was like that moment I'll
That's
never
cool.
forget.
That's super cool. Yeah, that's awesome. It kind of reminds me a little bit of that movie, That Thing You Do, when their song first gets heard on the radio and they're jumping up and down and going crazy. If you're just joining us, he is Max Collins, the lead singer of Eve 6. They're going to be playing Sunset Station here in Las Vegas on Saturday night. I will be there. Max, this is kind of crazy, but last time I saw you guys, I think I was in college. I'm 45 years old now, so I'm getting up there too. But you guys still jam and you guys have fun up there and you put on a great show. My question to you is, last question would be this though, like there are some musicians, they're not afraid to talk about politics and sometimes can be a little bit divisive. Have you always been afraid to go there? Or are you the kind of person that you don't care? You're just opinionated on everything. And if people like it, great. If they don't, who cares?
Yeah, I think I probably, my default is category B. But like, kind of like I said before, like after living on social media for as long as I have, the thing I'm doing right now is like just not, I'm really enjoying actually not being loud about anything. I'll have conversations with my friends and I'll do things that I think are useful. But like when it comes to, I think I have a bit of a public opinion hangover from just being firing off every single thought that came into my mind
Right.
on social media for the last however many years. So I think it's probably like a little bit of both, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
It does. And I can totally relate to what you're doing and taking some time away from social media. Unfortunately, it's my job and I can't do that. But if I could, I would. And I'd probably be a happier person if I'll attack and go after, not attack, but respond to trolls on social media. And then an hour goes by and I said, I just wasted an hour of my life that I'll never get back. So I could totally relate to that. Hey, Max, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. You're a brilliant musician, and I've loved your music for so many years, and I can't wait for the show on Saturday. I will certainly be there, my friend, and drive safe out there, man, and look forward to the show on Saturday, Max. Thanks so much for the time, my friend. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me and look forward to seeing you, man. We'll alternative rock out.
Absolutely, Max. Take it easy, my friend. One of the best eras of music is the 90s and mid-90s and late 90s alternative rock. So many great bands like Eve 6 came out, and I really do appreciate Max for taking the time to join us. I love those shades too, by the way. I must say those are some cool shades for a rock star to have. That's one great thing about being able to do a radio show like this is you get to talk to people like that and meet people like that, and sometimes even become friends with people that you grew up with. Richard Patrick, the lead singer of Filter, is a really good friend of mine, and he's helped me through some tough times, and he's a great guy. And I would also say that I'm taking a vacation in a few weeks. I'm going to San Diego, going to see the band Live and Collective Soul, two other great bands that came out in the 90s. Eve 6 was at the top of alternative rock in the late 90s. They were a huge band in the late 90s. And, those are some bands that I grew up with. And to me, alternative rock was some of the best music of my generation and in my life. And listen, there are some great bands today. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of talented musicians out there, but I just think there was that sound in the 90s. It was a different it was a different sound that I miss. That Alice in Chains, grunge, Pearl Jam type sound that you don't really hear on the radio today, at least not as much. I mean, alternative rock is, I'm not going to say it's dead, but it's just, it's tough, man, to get new alternative rock bands out there playing. And there are very few bands from the 90s that are still touring today. Now, listen, there are some, right? There are some bands from the 90s that are still touring today, Pearl Jam being one of them. My favorite band growing up is the band Live, and we just had Max on from Eve 6. I love Eve 6. I think they're great, and I'm really excited to see them this weekend. But I just feel like music has changed a lot. And I hate to sound old in saying this, because my dad would have me listen to Buddy Holly and Elvis Presley as a kid, and he would say, "Sonny, you don't know what good music is." And now I feel like I would say that to a high school or college student. You have no idea what good music is. The 80s and 90s were a great era of music. And I think now it's less about talent. I'm not saying there aren't new talented musicians out there, because there are, but I just feel like it's less about the talent today and it's more about the look, right? It's less about talented today, and there's a lot of lip syncers out there. And listen, I feel like that started a little bit when I was in my early 20s, like the Britney Spears era and the NSYNC era. I'm not saying those people aren't talented, but I wouldn't necessarily call them great musicians. I would call them great entertainers. I think there's a difference. Like when I go see whether it be like a Phil Collins, right? Or you go see a legendary band, I don't know, I mean, like U2, for example, right? You'd say, okay, they're really good entertainers, but they're phenomenal musicians, right? They write phenomenal songs. I just don't think there's a lot of that out there today. And there's some, but not a lot. Listen, there are people out there like the John Legends of the world and others like that are phenomenal talents. And those are the shows that I enjoy seeing. But listen, not to bring back politics into this, but I guess in this example, I will. There's some people there that call them, MAGA musicians. I don't know. I mean, Kid Rock has a few good songs. I wouldn't necessarily say Kid Rock is a great musician, because he's not. Is he an entertainer? Sure. Is he a bad person? Yes, I believe he's a bad person. Ted Nugent, he's got some good songs, right? Bad guy. I remember I went to see the band Stained, and if you don't know who Aaron Lewis is, he's the lead singer of the band Stained. Utter douchebag, horrible person, racist, bigoted in nature. I like his music though, but I just don't like the person. I saw Bill Maher do stand up so many times. He's very funny. Don't like the person. There's people out there that I am fans of. I like what they do, but I might not like the person, and that makes it very difficult. It makes it very difficult. And then there's people that I meet that turn out to be wonderful people, just great people. And when I, become friends with them, or I listen to their music my whole life and then we become friends, it's really cool. It's special to me. And I really do appreciate that. And I'm very fortunate enough that I live in the entertainment capital of the world in Las Vegas. So I get to go to a lot of events. I get to go to a lot of shows, a lot of concerts. I mean, every weekend is usually jam-packed for me, right? I'll be going to the EDC, and I know that some people might find that very shocking, and you should be shocked to see a pasty white guy like me going to EDC, as my producer gives me a weird look right now. There's a friend of mine that's working the show. She got me a credential to go. I'm going to walk around and have a good time, and whatever happens, happens. But I'm going to check that out. Then, of course, the Eve 6 show, and there's so many different options in a Vegas weekend that what you can do. But I love music, and I do believe somebody just mentioned Duran Duran. I love Duran Duran. I think music is a great escape from everyday stress in life. I love music. Music has always been near to dear to my heart. I love doing karaoke. Inside Out is a go-to song for me when I do karaoke. I love going to live concerts. I love going to shows. It makes me happy. I love music. But there's a certain type of music I like, right? 90s alternative rock is what my favorite type of music is. But music is a great healer. Music, I would think in some cases, hopefully brings us together. So I love music, and this brings me back to what I said earlier, not to preach here, but you got to do the things in life that make you happy, because life is very short. And to get your mind off of politics, we talk about a lot of serious topics on this show. Tomorrow will be no different. Today was a little bit more of a lighthearted show, even though we talked about some very serious topics. Jeremy London is a friend of mine. I grew up with him. I grew up with his movies, right? Party of Five and Mallrats, and we become friends. There are people that I looked up to growing up as a kid, and now I become friends with them, and I certainly don't take that for granted. It's very special to me. And Max is great. I love Eve 6 and I love their music. I think they're very talented musicians. They got so many great songs. So I'll be rocking out at Sunset Station on Saturday to his tunes. He's great. And the point that I was trying to make is do the things that make you happy. If you're not a music person, that's fine. Sports, music, maybe going to see a movie. You have to do the things in life that make you happy. And we can't be angry at MAGA Republicans every day. You can be angry the 2 hours a day that I do this show. That's fine. I'll be angry with you, but you got to do the things in life that make you happy. And we're all human beings and we're all working on that. But we are going to tackle the most important topics and the things that matter to you on this radio show every single day. That's never going to change. Doesn't mean we're not going to mix a little entertainment in there. Doesn't mean we're not going to have a little bit of fun in the process. We'll mix things up once in a while, but we will always talk about the most important news of the last 24 hours, and tomorrow will be no different. Please check out the official gaming bar of the PTL radio show, Jackson's Bar and Grill, located at Flamingo and Jones. As I mentioned, home of the $20 ribeye steak with a side and vegetables, the official gaming bar of the PTL radio show, Jackson's Bar and Grill. Support our sponsors, and please support me at the pushingthelimits.live website, where you can make donations and buy merchandise, pushingthelimits.live. Thank you for everybody in the YouTube Super Chat, the Occupy Democrats Network, the Washington Press Network. I love all of you guys. You are all part of our PTL family and nation, and we all appreciate you very much for allowing me to do what I do every day. Love you guys very much. Thank you very much. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.
Hey, everybody. Are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. We're located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premium Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino. Just